Hello and welcome to City AM's new video series, Your Questions Answered, where we try and get to the nub of the issues that are getting the city and indeed the wider United Kingdom talking. Where better to start than with the Bank of England. Runaway inflation, really the story of the last couple of years, and who better to discuss it with than my colleague Chris Dorrell, who's our Banking and Economics Correspondent. Chris, we've got inflation still kicking ahead just above 6%. Of course, Bank of England targets 2%. Most people expecting it to fall over the coming months still. But yeah, the Bank of England still expected, I think, to at least hike interest rates one more time, which will be, I think, the 15th or 16th in a row, I forget. Why is the Bank of England continuing to hike that interest rate, which obviously dampens economic growth, at the same time as we're starting to see inflation fall?
Well, yes, you're right. The Bank of England is almost certain to hike rates again when it meets later in September. And although inflation is falling, at the most recent reading, the headline rate fell quite significantly, but core inflation, which strips out kind of the most volatile aspects, and I think which most analysts would suggest is a more important thing to focus on, actually increased month on month, which implies, I guess, that inflation is more embedded in the economy than many economists had predicted when inflation first took off 18 months ago.
Yeah, and a lot of that core inflation, of course, well, people blamed inflation, certainly the government blamed inflation on things beyond, and the Bank of England blamed inflation on things beyond their control, right? The war in Russia and Ukraine, the gummed up supply chains at the end of COVID-19, the pandemic just creating scarcity, more demand than there was supply, naturally pushes up prices. But I guess what we've seen now in this core inflation is, as you say, that sort of when people ask for pay rises, that obviously forces companies to then put up their own prices, and that creates this wage price spiral, of course, we want to avoid. And that seems to be the thinking of the Bank of England. But there are people, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there are people who I think are saying that maybe the Bank of England could be going too far. And actually, while they may get inflation back to target, they do have to remember that the economy needs to keep, if not motoring, at least heading in the right direction.
Yeah, it's a difficult balance because I think policymakers always say there's a time lag for the effect of interest rates to come through. So they're effectively guessing what impact the decisions they've already made will have in the next few months. So they need to be careful not to go too far too soon. And I think that you're right, there are people who are saying that the impact of the rate hikes they've already made haven't yet come through fully. So a more cautious approach would be to wait and see for a few months, because, like you say, if rates go up too fast, the risk is that the economy tips into recession unnecessarily. On the other side of that, the Bank of England clearly didn't see inflation coming in the first place, and many argued and continued to argue that they were too slow to raise rates in the first place, and then mischaracterized inflation as transitory. So, it's whether or not their reputations are on the line.
Who'd be a central bank governor, eh? That's the question. Certainly Mark Carney seems to have had it easy when he was in post before handing off to his long-time deputy, Andrew Bailey, whose reputation in the city probably could do with some improvement. That's the inflation debate that's raging at the moment, be raging at the MPC. We get the decision at the back end of September, find out what interest rates do. I suggest at least one more hike, maybe another one before the end of the year. Either way, the pain for mortgage holders, Chris, in one word, significant?
Pretty significant.
That'll do for now. I've been Andy Sylvester, this has been Chris Dorrell. Don't forget to check all the economics and business news live at cityam.com, as well as in the paper and, of course, now on our app.